Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Real Talk with Rachel Autry, where I help you delight in life and find joy right where you are. And today we have a dude. We got a guy with us. It's Levi Lusko. If you listened to the episode with Jenny, his wife, about, I want to say it was 3 years ago. I didn't look this up, but it's amazing. It's phenomenal. It shares a lot about their story, grief, tragedy, how they truly leaned on the Lord, and wisdom that Jenny gained through that. So I highly recommend, if you have not listened to that episode, go back. But today we got Levi, the other half of the Luskos. I'm so excited to have you.
Oh, Rachel, thank you. You had the best Lusko first, so I can back clean up here, but it's a joy to be with you guys.
Tell my friends listening what you said before, that Lisa Turker says that you speak fluent. What did you say?
Female. She said I write specifically in a way that resonates with a female reader. She said better than most men can, which is especially pastors. She said pastors don't generally write in a way that females can track with. I think it's because I've got 2 sisters and 4 daughters. Yeah. So that's my cheat hack there.
That's so funny. I have boys and I grew up with all brothers. So I feel like I speak dude really well, dude.
You got to start the men's podcast then.
That's something amazing. Like that. Yeah. No, I joke. I'm like, I got a frat house and you've got a srat house. You got a sorority house over there.
Yeah, my joke was always that I was a minority in a sorority until I had my son. So it was just me and 5 girls forever, you know?
That is so funny. Yeah, you get it. Outnumbered for sure. But I'm glad to have you. Hey, and I want you to tell people a little bit of context about who you are. You just shared about your family, but who you are, what you do. So before we dive into the conversation, just for good context.
Well, my proudest accomplishment, yes, being Jenny Lusko's husband and Olivia, Daisy, Clover, Linya, and Lennox's dad. And then we get to serve and lead a church community called Fresh Life that we absolutely adore. It started in Montana and now reaches everywhere online, and we have different locations, and we're about to open our newest location inside a prison in Salt Lake City, a women's correctional facility. We got the green light finally from the Department of Corrections to open a weekly church inside the correctional facility. We're opening it on Mother's Day, which is so exciting.
That is so epic.
Yeah, and then we lead a podcast called Hey, It's the Luskos, which is so fun. We just recorded our 200th episode, so we're kind of plugging away at the podcast.
Let's go.
And then, we write books. I love reading. I always have. I used to do every summer as a kid this contest where the local library would have a checklist and you would write out every book you read, and you'd get a prize if you read the most books, and I would always try and win that. So books have played a large part in my life, and now I'm grateful to be on the other side of that. I still read, but I also get to write, and I love writing so much. So that's a little, and I have a poodle named Tabasco. So that's
of course, Tabasco. Can't leave out the poodle.
Spicy poodle.
Tell me what you're reading right now. I love getting good book recs from my reader friends.
I'm reading a book called The Agony and the Ecstasy. It's a book by Irving Stone, about Michelangelo, and specifically, the David and the Sistine Chapel, just kind of his whole life. It's a historical fiction so they embellish certain things, but you're also getting the actual behind the scenes of his creating the art. That's
crazy cool. That's cool. I always ask. I'm the kind of girl, I love to read, but I have more on my nightstand than I would like to admit. We get 18, 20, sometimes max 40 pages in. And I'm like, I will get to it later. But I think that maybe it's just a season of life thing, not really a reflection.
I also would say, our devil's advocate, that's the author's fault.
You know what? I like that answer. Maybe so.
You can get 40 pages into a book and you can't keep going, that's not on you, that's on the author. It's my job to suck you in and to write in such a compelling way that you have to keep going.
Levi, you do that. You do that so well. And I want to honor you for that because, and it's cool that you even see that. Yes, I love the books that you're sucked in either because of curiosity. I mean, obviously curiosity, but your curiosity is caused by something that's probably a paradigm shift or contradictory or a breakthrough for something that you've always believed to be true. And now you have your why. You're great about that. And you have a new book.
Very kind. That's very kind of you. Yeah. I mean, I think if you're not grabbing your highlighter and having to highlight something and bending the page over, and if you don't want to get to X and tweet about it or text a friend, if you're not being enriched by something,
right?
Why shouldn't you just keep plodding away at it?
Okay. One more fun question about books. Now that you say that, it's funny. I think the books that I can't get through are the research books that I know I really should read about, I don't know, parenting, business, things like that. Those are the ones that I'm like, I know they're enriching, but like, they're not fun. So it's still author's fault.
I still think it's the author's fault. I mean, I don't know. I think you have to, at a certain point, like, love to learn, but that's also, it can be written in a compelling way. Like one of my favorite authors has written, his name's Robert Caro. He's written 4 out of 5 books on President Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ. And this is quote unquote dry history, but he writes it with a forcefulness of thought and captures the story. And, so I still think any subject can be unpacked in an interesting way.
Okay, good. Okay. That makes me feel a lot better. Maybe I'll try again. Also, it could be because I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And so my brain calories are like squished these days.
Yeah. Maybe audiobooks are going to be your tip.
Maybe audiobooks. But here's the cool thing for our friends listening. Exactly what Levi just said and exactly what I said back about how you do that so well. Your newest book, Blessed Are the Spiraling, we got to talk about it. We've got to talk about it. It like disrupted me in the best way. I'm not going to like give it all because we have to like chat through this. And I have a lot of really cool questions that I think will reach anyone where they're at, no matter what.
Well, fortunately it's 300 pages. So I don't think we could get it all in either way. That would take 12 hours.
This is not the audiobook version, people. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that the most fascinating part of it all is, especially for women, I think it's very easy for us. Well, first off, the title kind of digs away right at what we're talking about here. For those of us who feel like life is a little bit too much to handle right now, that we're spiraling, that we feel like we're coming to the ends of ourselves very quickly, that you're feeling lost or confused and disoriented and all the things that spiraling I feel like means to me, that can sometimes be the most beautiful place to end up. And I want to go there. How would you define spiraling, first off?
Yeah, I think you captured it. I think it's a feeling of being disoriented. I think we all know this as kids. If you spin around in a circle enough times, you're going to be dizzy and have a hard time even running straight. And I think life can get us off kilter and we can lose our center. We can lose our sense of where we're going and why, and even who we are. And a lot of times it's transition points. You mentioned having little kids. That's disorienting. Marriage, as much as we are excited to get married, once you're in marriage, it can feel disorienting. You move, you get out of college, you hit the midlife crisis. That's the specific spiraling I wrote the book referring to in my own life, though it's meant to hit everybody where they're at. If you played a college sport and you get hurt and now you can't play the sport anymore, that's disorienting. And then certainly empty nest, chronic illness, all of a sudden life hits us with these points where we just feel like, I don't have a compass. I don't see the stars. How am I going to wayfind?
Wow. Yeah, that's so good. Yes, we find ourselves there often. That is for sure. And I think it's something that we believe the lie that once we get reoriented, we're good. Like, I've been disoriented. I'm never going to be that way again. Or I'm really good at reorienting myself. And like, I won't have to worry about it as badly the next time.
Yeah, that's a bummer to think that. And it is
bummer.
It's human nature to think I'm going to get better because I have experience. My dad died a year ago and I had this silly thought that because I have had my punch card punched on grief, my wife and I had a little girl go to heaven. She was 5. And that was such a big grief to go through because a child dying is so abnormal and so, unexpected. You kind of go, well, old people die. That's what they do, So I naively thought, I knew I was going to miss my dad. I knew I was going to grieve my dad. He was my best friend. But I sort of had this little hope that maybe the grief wouldn't be as hard because I had already been through it once before. And man, if it didn't just wipe me out. And then I realized, I never have grieved a dad before. That's a whole different. So I'm still a newbie to grief. And I think with spiraling, it doesn't matter what we've been through before. We can learn principles that can help us. It's still going to, be a gut punch, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's so good. Someone recently told me I lost my dad as well when I was in high school, and someone was so sweet and kind to share and remind me that, I don't know why I'm saying this, I just feel like I should, that grief is the evidence there was love at all. And the more you grieve, there's more of a loss. And so again, it doesn't matter for any of our friends listening, like who you lost, how recently you lost them. There was a loss, and that's just evidence that there was love there in the first place.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. It's all the leftover love you weren't able to give them here on earth, too, is another way I like to put it for my boys.
Yeah. If it didn't hurt, it would mean we didn't love them. So it's a lovely reminder and a terrible privilege to hurt.
Yeah. Terrible privilege. Yes. I love that. For the people that they are there, though, and maybe the world has sold them the lie, that is a bummer, and they're believing it and they're moving forward. They're like, no, I got this. I can control this. It is up to me. If I stop, the world stops spinning. And they kind of have this like main character complex about it all. What is the best encouragement you have for them to kind of get to the end of the spiral to a place of surrender that they can then move forward from?
Yeah. I mean, life will humble you. I think you go through enough, you think I can just muscle through this, and that will break all of us. The metaphor of the mountain I like to use, because the mountain wins. You're not going to have more stamina, more fortitude. I mean, you're a human. Even the best of women and men are women and men at best. So there's a sense in which none of us get off this planet alive. Death comes to a surprisingly large amount of us, meaning all of us are going to go face it, and all of us are going to face all the hard things between now and then, meaning all of our loved ones, either us or them, are going to die. So we're going to have to face grief. We're going to face disease. We're going to face difficulty. And then also just the irrelevance. I think that's one thing that's really hard for us to handle, is like, I'm not the youngest, newest thing anymore. I became a pastor when I was very young. My first sermon when I was a teenager. And I didn't realize how much of my self-identity came from being the young pastor until life tampered with it by me becoming middle-aged. And it dawned on me, because it doesn't happen like overnight. It happens like slowly. You sort of go, oh, I'm not old yet, but I'm on my way, and I'm not young. I'm kind of in the middle. And it's like how I saw me was changing because what I foolishly had built my identity on. I mean, that wasn't like intentional. I was following Jesus, but it was just sort of how I kind of saw myself as this young pastor. And so now that that's not the accurate truth anymore, it was kind of like I had to destroy that and build a new identity based on something that is long-term. And I think it's always foolish to build an identity based on anything that's temporary. Because anything you could, your money, your looks, your sex appeal, whatever, your waistline, that's all going away eventually. Who won the Academy Award for Best Actress in 1927? Who cares? No one knows anymore, because it's 1928 and 1929. And so whatever prominence we have or success in our field or whatever, that's a lousy thing to build your image based on, because, the only thing that lasts forever is God's love and who he sees you and calls you to be. And that we'll get to have 10,000 years from now. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I almost feel like too, that there's two types of spiraling, because what I heard you talk about was this whole, so life can totally put you off kilter by happenings and circumstances. And I think there's this other half of the equation that feels almost like spiraling is we happen upon ourselves. Like we have these wild realizations like, okay, now I'm middle life. Now what? Or, oh man, I didn't go for that dream 10 years ago. Is it too late? Like, do I do what I feel like the Lord's called me to do, or did I miss it? And like big questions to wrestle with that I feel like can also, we throw ourselves into a spiral. Do you feel like there's other types of spirals, or is it like really those are?
That's insightful. I do think so. I think I heard it said once, we are all complicit in our own suffering, meaning many of us make the decisions that bring about the crisis,
Sure.
But regardless, once we find ourselves there, whether it was our own decisions or just the circumstances of life, once we're there, that's where I think it's important that we realize the gift of it, because it is truly a gift to spiral. I know it doesn't feel like that, whether you're, just struggling with motivation or apathy, or for me, it was panic attacks that started coming. When you're in the midst of one of those spirals, you should declare over yourself, like, I may not feel it right now, but I'm blessed. And that's why the title is the way it is, because, and it hits us like, wait, there's nothing blessed about spiraling. I get it. But Jesus said, blessed are you when you are poor in spirit, when you're persecuted, when you hunger and thirst for God. Those are all things that are hard, but you're blessed, because I think in those moments, God gets your attention. When we're in the fast lane and everything's going good and everything we touch turns to gold, those are not generally speaking the big growth seasons of our soul.
That's right.
I think Ronald Rolheiser said, success feels good, but it doesn't have as much to teach us. I think there's this reality that we should rejoice when we fall into various trials, because in those times God gets our attention. We get to lean in, we get to recalibrate, we get to decide what's in my life that I've accumulated that's not worthy, that I can get rid of, eliminate, simplicity. Teach me a heart of wisdom. Help me to know my end. Like, I'm not here forever. I don't want to get too comfortable camped out here and here on this earth, or here at this spot, at this age. We Forever 21 just declared bankruptcy. I think it's ironic, because I think
R.I.P. Best high school outfits.
Exactly. But to declare Forever 21, isn't that our culture? I'm going to stay this age forever. We rush to get to our ideal age or stage of life, and then we want to stay there. Yeah. But you know what? The kids are growing up and you're growing up. And so we can't stay anywhere. So I think the blessing is to actually do some of the hard thinking and hard work in those moments. And then we come out of it better.
Yeah. And how beautiful that Lord, that's so kind that he orchestrated it and instrumented us in that way, that we come to ourselves, the end of ourselves, very quickly, because we're always aging. We're always tired. We're always hungry if we don't eat. We're thirsty if we don't drink. Like, our dependence on something else is always evident. And so if we get to this place where we're like, no, Rachel's got this, I'm fine. Surely she's not. And so it almost takes like catastrophe to break my heart again, to be like, okay, I'm back on my knees. I need you, Lord, rescue me. And he's so kind to, one, do that. But then two, to also, again, create us in such a way that we depend on 8 hours of sleep, drinking water, eating nutrient-dense food. Like, it's moving our bodies. It's so cool that he's like, you need more than what your body can give you on its own. Exactly what you just said is what Paul told the church at Corinth when he described the difficulty he went through at Ephesus. He says, we fought with savage beasts. He said it was so hard. And we don't know what happened at Ephesus, but he said it was so bad, we despaired of life itself. Mm-hmm. Now that's a big deal, because Paul's a pretty upbeat cat. He wrote Romans 8:28. I mean, he knew a thing or two about having a positive mental outlook. And yet he said we despaired of life itself. But then he says, this happened so that we would not trust in ourselves, but in the living God who raises the dead. So he saw the benefit of coming to the end of himself, of having an existential crisis, of having a breakdown, and coming to that place of realizing even the Apostle Paul is still a man, and I need to trust in God, and I'm going to do. And I think, like you said, every day there's a little reminder of our frailty, of our weakness. Every Sabbath that we take is a chance to go, I am not going to live forever. I am in a rest from labor. I'm going to rest in what God's doing. It's not about me. And it's almost this microcosm of the rest that we're going to have to take of retirement when we are no longer able to work at our productivity. We can't sustain peak performance forever, and there's going to come a season where we're going to stop working. So it's a reminder of trusting in him every time we do it. Yeah, that's good. So fun fact for you, listeners might know, they might be so annoyed with me talking about it, but my husband is a pilot. And so aviation is like the language we talk, because there's so many really cool principles and analogies there. But one of them that's coming to my mind is there's two different ways to fly an airplane. There's VFR, where it's visual flight regulation. So you go off what you're seeing outside, the clouds, whatever. And then there's instrument flight regulation, IFR. And when you're flying IFR, it's terrifying. The worst is when you're stuck in fog or you're stuck in a cloud, because you truly cannot tell if the plane is tilting or if you're going up or going down. You have no clue, because everything around you is the same color. And you have to rely on instruments, or else you are so disoriented. Typically, this is when plane crashes that have to do with weather happen, is because just pilots did not trust instruments, or they didn't check instruments. So translating that to this, I feel like life. It's not that we're bad pilots, it's that weather happens. And we also can't rely on everything that we see to be the truth. We have to trust our instruments to be able to get us to destination safely. So if we're talking this analogy, give me some good instruments, like good practicals that can almost be our dashboard for we're going down or, hey, we're actually safe. I don't need to be as terrified as I think I need to be, or just some things that can help calibrate us and bring us back to, this is reality right now.
That's so powerful. I love that. And I think it was John F. Kennedy's son died because he wasn't instrument rated and was flying to Martha's Vineyard and got caught in the, so you can't trust your perception. You have to trust in that, in the outside. That's strong. Yeah. I think there's a number of things, of course, but what helped me get through that time was the community that I allowed into it, trusting the right voices. Scripture says in the multitude of counselors, there's safety. So I invited a few voices in and was just vulnerable with what was going on. It wasn't everybody, and I do think there's some wisdom in not being public and coming to conclusions when you're in the midst of a fog, when you're in the middle of it all. Jesus showed his scars, but I think he wants us to heal our wounds. So we take some time to heal before we're going public with them. I experienced this spiraling season 4 years ago was when it began. I went through it for about a year and a half. And then there was more healing before I was ready to kind of openly talk about it because I didn't have those conclusions to come to yet. Mm-hmm. So now as I look back, I can go, okay, here's some things that really help. But when you're in the midst of it, to some degree, you have to just kind of keep going. Yeah. I think it's important to not make big decisions during storms. A lot of times people freak out and make bad decisions. That's why the tropes are what they are about midlife crisis, the Corvette, the affair, quitting a job, just making rash decisions. So I think to some degree, you got to kind of keep calm and carry on. We're just going to get through this. We're not going to always feel this strongly. Let's pull a few wise key voices in. Let's not do anything drastic, not do anything crazy. So for me, it was, okay, this is wild. I'm struggling with these panic attacks. I'm struggling with motivation. I literally was like, I don't know if I want to pastor anymore. I was having those kind of thoughts. I don't have the same sense of drive or vision. And so bringing some voices in to go, hey, this is what I'm feeling. And then for that to be met with, hey, I went through that too. Mm-hmm. I remember that for me, it was 40 or this, or, when I was younger or whatever. Here's what helped me. Then I also stepped up counseling. I have a counselor I meet with, stepped up and was meeting more regularly, and then even did an intensive where I did a whole week of counseling. And I connected some dots on some things that were unprocessed traumas in my life that I had neglected to appreciate the magnitude of the ways that they had shaped me and formed patterns.
Yep.
And I would be that guy going, oh, come on, you're going to blame everything on your childhood. Like I literally, but then as I connected some dots, I started to see some patterns that literally stemmed from childhood and some things going back to my parents' divorce when I was very young, and how that just kind of set some things that were defense mechanisms at first. Mm-hmm. And so it was very helpful to go through that with a biblical grid and a frame of perspective. And then also to analyze the human, because like you said, we can also make some wise decisions or foolish decisions. For me, I had, for my 20s and 30s, run at a really hard pace. I had spoken all over the world a number of times, led in our church, but also published a number of books. And it was just a lot like that. I couldn't keep up with that pace indefinitely. Yeah. And so it was a chance for me to recalibrate and go, okay, hey, what's a sustainable pace to run at? How can I better incorporate the rest that I need inside my life, the right rhythms? And then also I even met with my local physician, did a panel, tried to figure out, is this coming from hormones? Is this coming from a drop in testosterone? And I was just kind of attacking it holistically, body, mind, soul, schedule, and then also from a mental health perspective. And all of the above were really rich in helping me navigate that season.
Yes. So good. Yeah. I'm even thinking through, and like to add one, I'm sure you would say this, so I'm just going to ad lib. I'm putting words in your mouth now. Are you ready?
Yeah.
And like even having like a protocol. No, if what's true, if what we're talking about is true, spiraling is going to happen. There's nothing we can necessarily like do to keep ourselves from spiraling. That is kind of God's design, is to bring us back to him. And if that's true, then having almost a protocol for every time that we almost start recognizing the flags of like, oof, weather's getting weird, like here comes fog, or we're checking the weather and we see it's foggy before we even go up. Like there's a protocol in place to keep us safe. So we don't make those rash decisions, like grab the yoke and just do something silly because we think that's what's best. We cannot trust our perception. So I feel like even having a protocol in place, like we have one as a family, like a fire plan, but different. Okay, like if you smell smoke, this is what you do. It's like, okay, if Rachel starts lighting on fire, this is what Rachel starts to do. If Levi starts realizing something's happening again, like having those things in place. And what you said is incredible protocol. So I don't want our friends listening to hear like, okay, that's good for when it happens or if I'm in the middle of it. I'm like, it's actually great to practice exactly what you just said with schedules and finding help, getting community plugged into where you're at and you plugged into them. Like all those things are proactive, don't have to be reactive.
Very good. Well, you put wonderful words in my mouth. I'm glad I said all of that.
You're welcome. That doesn't always happen.
That's very well said. And I think Jenny and I like this phrase, stick to the plan. Like,
that's
the plan of, hey, here's what we're going to do. And I think for us to be able to say, I'm not feeling super grounded, I'm not feeling super myself, and to be able to call that out in each other in a loving way, in a helpful way.
Yeah.
That's been so helpful in dialogue with our kids, just in like emotions controlling us and being able to talk about how we're feeling. We have this emotional color wheel that tells you all the different emotions, because there's not just a couple, there's a lot of different complicated emotions. And so the more honest we can be about how we're feeling and what that's meant, if you Google it, you can literally just Google emotional color wheel.
My counselor has a pillow on her sofa with it. Isn't that so cool?
But we keep one near our dinner table. It's called Let's Taco About Feelings, and all the different emotions are in shapes of tacos.
That's so epic.
And so to be able to like, hey, what are we actually feeling? I'm mad. Well, no. You're actually, you might feel embarrassed, or you might feel insecure, you might feel jealous, you might feel overlooked. Mm-hmm. And so the more we can get better at discussing what we're actually feeling, and then we can try and figure out where it's coming from. Because when we have a strong reaction, usually that's telemetry. That's a indicator light on the dashboard telling us something's going wrong, and it may be coming, from some other place in your life that you're feeling. Mm-hmm. So when I come upon, a time, I'll just use an example from last week. I was flying back to New Mexico for my mom's birthday, where I grew up, and I had only been back once since my dad's funeral. And I started to feel all these different things, and I felt myself being short and felt myself being anxious, and stuff that was normal work stuff that I was getting was really bothering me. And I had to stop and go, okay, what's going on? Mm-hmm. If a normal thing that gets, let's say, a 2 alarm fire is now getting a 10, alarm response to it, that tells you something inside's not right. And so then I had to go, oh, I'm anxious to go back because of my dad's grave, and because normally every time I'd come to this airport, he'd be waiting at security to greet me when I came through. So that's what's going on. All this other stuff, I'm not really angry about any of that. I'm feeling hurt about missing my dad. So I think when you start to get better at diagnosing those things, they lose their power over you.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's so good. Oh, I'm getting my heart's getting pinged because I'm like, I don't take, this is confession, I don't take enough time often to actually pause. I am like I'm like a rhino. I just charge through. I'm like, we will get to the end of the day and then we will assess. And then I'm making so much collateral mess out of it all. And instead of being like, I'm going to go to the restroom for 10 minutes, lock myself in. Okay, boys, you're safe. Here's some coloring pages. I'll be right back. It just is interesting because I do think that especially women are served this lie that if we step away, things just crumble. And so a lot of times women just keep on keeping on, and they don't get to the root of it. And again, a lot of collateral mess happens. So that's good.
Jenny likes to call what you just described a holy smoke break. Because
I like that.
If you drive by factories like or workplaces, there's always a designated smoking area. You see smokers step outside, and she said one day she was jealous, all these people standing around just getting to sit there and breathe smoke. And now she doesn't want to smoke, but she goes, I like that they get to leave their job and they just get to stand there for 3 minutes and smoke a cigarette. And she realized, I need to start taking a holy smoke break so that the Holy Spirit. So she would literally go in the pantry or in the bathroom or go upstairs for a minute, and she would just be like, I just need a holy smoke break, and just recenter herself on the Lord and think about what she's actually feeling and all those things.
I love that. Copy paste in the Autry household. That's what we're doing right now. Oh, that's so good. Thomas, my husband's gonna be like, so what'd you do today? I'm like, I learned I needed a holy smoke break. That's
Or if
my
she's
takeaway for
really
today.
stressed, she'll call it a holy smokes break because she's having to say to herself, holy smokes.
Folks, no, that's so funny. Jenny, that's
I know.
hilarious. She's got jokes.
She's a
She's really
funny
cool.
girl. Yeah.
She's really cool. I want you to
But it's also been helpful to us personally too, because her and I spiraling, and I think this can be helpful. I don't mean to take the reins here,
no,
but
go.
you know, we've spiraled at the same time. It's really hard when two people in a marriage are spiraling simultaneously. When our daughter died, we were both usually strong when the other was weak. Meaning if I was having a really low day, Jenny was having a good day and she would hold me up, and then vice versa. And that seemed to be how we faced our daughter's death. But in this crisis, I was spiraling and she was spiraling because we're both kind of at this interesting spot. You could talk to her about it. She would have lots to say, but she was going through a diagnosis of PMDD, which is a premenstrual disorder that caused her to crash emotionally a week before her period. And it just so happened that when I was at my worst, she was simultaneously at her worst. And it was really hard
Not
because
cute.
neither of us had anything to offer each other.
Yeah.
And there was one moment where I literally was like, I really need you. She's like, I don't have anything to give. So we both were having a hard time. And what we found was helpful was to have language around that. So like if she needed to like, hey, I'm going to take a Xanax and take a shower and go lie down. And like, there was times when it was more helpful for us to know what we needed than to keep trying to come to an accord and then to pick it back up, when we were both at a better spot or one of us was at a better spot. So just having language around that made the game changer of, hey, I love you. I just don't have anything to give at this moment.
Yeah, that's good too. A reminder for us to go ahead and give our spouses the permission. Like, hey, you have permission to be broken because I already know you are. So just tell me when you are and I can help you, rather than there being like some sort of explosion. And you're like, oh yeah, you're not doing good. Wish you would have told me earlier. That's so good. I want you to speak to the friend who's listening that is like, yeah, I love this so much. At the same time, I need someone on the other side of a spiral to tell me that my best days are still ahead of me because I'm just not convinced. Like, I know how to deal with the spiral, but what is there to look forward to post spiral or in between spirals? Mm-hmm. Can you almost just paint a picture of just the gift of all of it, but specifically that beautiful breath that we can take in between?
Yeah, I would just tell you that there's lots of different spiral things in nature, and there's lots of different spirals you'll encounter in life. But one of my favorites is spiral staircases. And you can literally get to another level by spiraling. And our language around spiraling is almost always down. I'm spiraling down into chaos, down into an airplane graveyard. What do they call it? Graveyard spiral. But to think you can if you can spiral down, you can spiral up. And Elijah was caught up by a whirlwind into heaven. So God has a track record of using spirals to bring people up to next levels. And I think if you can believe it, that's actually what's happening, that God is in his graciousness and kindness trying to sift your heart to get rid of the worthless and to keep the precious. And if you feel like you've run into a wall, maybe it's a stair. Maybe God's trying to develop one step at a time up to the next level. You're leveling up in your ability. You're leveling up in your grit, your agency, and your likeness to Jesus. He's come near to you in your brokenheartedness. So declare yourself blessed. And now ask not, why am I here? But God, what are you trying to teach me? What are you trying to develop in me? And how can I become more like you in this? And so I think each step of our development is up and up, closer to the center. And eventually we'll stand before Jesus and our faith will be sight. And until then, the goal is growing in grace. And puberty's hard. Remember puberty? Pimples and embarrassment and emotion.
That's the scariest part about raising boys to me, honestly. So here we go.
Well, puberty is not fun. But on the other side of it is a new level. And I think we make the mistake of thinking we leave puberty behind, but there's a whole nother spiritual level of puberty at midlife and later life and post-menopause and drop in testosterone. Like it's all just development. But the Bible says there's the glory of the young woman or man is their strength, but the glory of the old man or woman is their silver hair. So there is a glory to your coming season, not just your current one.
That's so good. That's so good. Yeah. Okay. Bringing it back to the grief part about earlier, I think that there's also a spiral to the grief in a healing sense too. So now that you're saying spiraling upward, yes. But the grief spiral upward, I think, is so beautiful too. Like as soon as I was like, okay, I think I got this figured out. I think I know what days to assume are going to be hard days for me, to assume are going to be fine days for me. I have children. And now I have a 4-year-old who is curious where Granddaddy Bill is and how he knows him. He can see pictures of him, but he isn't ever able to meet him. And it's just like a new layer of grief that we're spiraling. But also there comes this beautiful new language, new healing. How beautiful that this little boy never will know this man, but still loves him. Like just this new awareness of where God is anyways. And so, yeah, I love that, is that even though I think the enemy of our lives would like for us to believe that everything is against us, out to get us, and all the things. I'm like, no, but God is so for us, and he has designed us in a way that continually brings us back to him. So,
yeah, and beautiful. I think it's so sweet. Like Lennox never met Lenya, but Lennox has been shaped by Lenya. Mm-hmm. You know, the Bible says we've not seen Jesus, but we know him and we love him. So, I mean, I think he's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He said that to Moses when they were long with him in heaven. So Granddaddy Bill is very much a part of, and not only still shaping your life through who he was, how he lived, and but also your son. So I mean, he's in your son in the sense of DNA and heredity, but also his impact and influence. There's very much a sense in which we can be guided by our forefathers in that regard, in a very positive, very powerful, very meaningful way.
Legacy.
Yeah, I've never met Abraham Lincoln, but I sure have been impacted by him.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So good. I would love for you to share where people can find Blessed Are the Spiraling and all things Levi, all the things you've got going on.
Oh, you're too kind, Rachel. blessedarethespiraling.com is the one-stop shopping for all those books and then, all the normal social media places, all the things. But yeah, we're really excited about carrying this message because I've been pleasantly surprised by how many people have been resonating with this message across such a broad spectrum of ages. And I'm just grateful for the chance to carry this message.
So good. Okay, last question. One of my most favorites. What are you loving these days that you have to share with our friends that are listening?
Merino wool clothing.
Tell me more.
Antimicrobial. So I travel a lot, and merino wool, it doesn't smell. So you can wear it. Like if you wear a shirt 3 or 4 days, it gets funky. Sure. But merino, literally, you can wear it for days on end. It never smells bad. It's really durable. So like merino wool socks, they have merino wool underwear. They have merino, my wife would say like they have merino wool bras. I mean, and that stuff is so game changer for travel because it doesn't have to be washed as much and you can get a lot more wear of it and bring a lot less. So big fan of merino wool.
Okay. That's a game changer. That really is. That's probably one of my favorites people have said in a long time. That's good. You win. I am just so grateful for you and wisdom and just time that you would take to pour into my friends that are listening, and really proud. This is a really, really beautiful work. And
thank you.
Like you said, are meeting a lot of people.
How sweet is that cover? I mean, the stinking team killed it with the tornado of wildflowers.
Killed it. I know. I love it. And all the graphics and the quotes, my marketing heart is blessed.
Well, shout out to Alicia Gregory for the cover. She did a great job. She's done all my books, but this one, she just smashed it.
You go, Alicia. You go, girl. I love that. Thanks so much for listening to another episode with us. It would mean the most if you took 30 seconds and left us a 5-star review in whatever platform that you're listening in right now. It's one of the best and free ways that you can love on us. So don't forget that anything we mention in today's episode, from resources, products, and more, can all be found in our show notes at realtalkwithrachel.com. For more updates, behind the scenes, and fun chats, head over to Instagram and follow us at Real Talk Podcast.